Yeah, so let's look at this. So these are the interesting ones. 2021 option declined. This is the most impactful one that we can have in these lists. That essentially means that the team had a contract available with the player, and they decided not to extend it. There is a world in which they're declining it so that they can renegotiate for a higher price. Probably unlikely with a lot of these players, I would say. I don't think anyone's not putting in an option and then giving them a raise. Or maybe it could honestly be that they're not extending options and then they're reducing players' salary. That would be more likely. But it's a pretty interesting one because option declined essentially means that they're dropping the player. For this one, like FRD, there's a lot of players that are like this where it's free agent, existing contract expired. This also doesn't mean the player is leaving the team. This just means that their contract is expiring and they could be in negotiations for a new contract. So it's not like the end of the world if you see this. It's not like guaranteed that the players aren't going to be changing. Yeah. 2021 option declined is the most interesting one though. That's pretty evident that it's probably going to be dropped. You could also be renegotiating players for longer term contracts. Exactly, right? That the reason a lot of teams sometimes don't like to decline options the teams like to decline options is therefore that they can sign another player for another guaranteed 2 years, and then therefore we don't end up in this situation like you have the San Francisco Shock in right now, where you have Moth and Super in contract expired, and that allows them to go into free agency, which then means they can do whatever the fuck they want. So it'll be interesting to see what the change is going to be. I wonder if the minimum salary is going to be reduced by the league. I doubt it. I don't think minimum salary should be reduced for the league. That's not an issue. Like, the teams aren't like, oh man, the minimum salary is too much, we have to pay everyone 50 grand. It's like, the issue is, shit, we fucking inflated the market so much that everyone thinks they're worth fucking $200,000 when really everyone's worth, like, realistically, like $70,000. Like, that's the issue. The market has inflated itself so much that I think players are too expensive for the business side of teams to really justify right now. Because the league, unfortunately, and teams don't make enough money right now to justify the salaries. I don't think it should, but I can see COVID being a convenient excuse. I think that will be an excuse used by a lot of teams to justify the decision-making of this was too hard to accomplish. It was too hard to get this roster working, to work with this player, all that kind of stuff. I think a prime example of that is Vancouver Titans, KSA. I think a lot of people were very impressed with how he played, but he was having issues getting into the country. And I wonder if that is something that they're like, we're just not sure if we can overcome, so we'd just rather go in a different direction. These pros will price themselves out thinking they deserve the money they were getting. Yeah, and that's it. Like, players are always going to think they're worth the money that they are, or like, this player's making this much money, so I should make this much money because I, in my opinion, are comparable. But every team is different. Some teams are willing to spend more money than others. Some teams do that kind of stuff. There is an absurd number of players in free agency to a point we've never seen before in an off-season of the Overwatch League, which is going to completely change how this off-season functions, in my opinion, because all of a sudden there are a lot of options that a lot of people have not been used to or expecting. So, what are these teams going to do? And that's what we're going to go through and talk about. We're going to talk about the players that they're dropping, the ideology that it looks like they're going towards, and what I think this means for the teams. 103 out of 200 are currently free agent. That is misleading. I think giving that 103 out of 200 players is free agency, because I think probably half of them are just going to re-sign with the team that they're currently on. But it is still a thing. Do you think if salaries were public, it's a good thing? I think it's good for the players. It's not good for the teams. If salaries are public, that gives players a lot more leverage to say that they are worth this much because this player is making this much money. It's not good for the teams because the teams, you know, let's use Huck with Myeonbong for a prime example. I'm sure he's fucking robbing Myeonbong blind for the amount of money he's paying him compared to a lot of these other players. Players can talk about their salary. Not publicly. Like, you can't... Like, let's say this. I can't go into my negotiation and say, this player is making this much money, he told me. And you can't use that as a justifiable excuse and stuff like that. Like, you can't just... just because it's not illegal in the US doesn't mean it's not illegal. Like, you can't... The information is out there if the players want to talk to each other, but you can't just be like... Like, the players just can't, like, everyone compile their own list of amount of money and that kind of stuff. There's, like, contracts around that kind of shit. You just can't do that. I don't know exactly what the legalities of it, but what you're saying is just not possible. Did Huxell say what other game career he's transitioning? I think he said League of Legends. Or did I just hear that as a rumor, that he was thinking about going back to League? Did he? I feel like I saw that, but that could have just been in like a Reddit. Oh, I think it was a Reddit comment that did the translation better from his stream. Yeah, he messaged streaming / League of Legends, I believe. Hey, Custa, we met at Season 1 Finals. Remember me? Sorry, I met a lot of people at Season 1 Finals. Gangster's like, no, I actually think he is going for... I think he said I think he's just going to stream and then play some League. There are predictions, even the US for that they probably could, but no one's going to stick out their heads with no union. Exactly. That's sort of what I'm saying. It's like, it's not, as I said, you're not going to get punished, you're not going to get fined into the wazoo for talking about your contract. But you can't, there's limitations, right? Like, of what you can and can't do. And Overwatch League would step in if it started getting out of hand. I just can't remember what day it is. Yeah, that's true. Is there any esports player union whatsoever? I think CSGO has a player union. Oh, you mean like a general overarching esports player union? No. But I think some specific games have player unions. Why do I feel like it's just CSGO? What's happening with your contract though? My contract, you know, I'm done for the season. That's where we're at. What happens next season, we'll have to find out. Custa free agent. I am also a free agent, technically. Yes. Because I was under a contract for the season. We need you back. I appreciate that. League has one too. I'm not sure if League has a union. Maybe it does. Boston Custa. Custa going to get a bad coaching feeling. I don't think I would like coaching. Do you get healthcare? As being a player, I believe you do. I think that's one of the requirements, that they do give you healthcare. Am I right about that? I think, like, at least it was... I'm trying to remember what the Season 1 requirements were and if they changed. It was, like, minimum salary of $50,000, benefits... Was it housing? Some form of housing or something like that? I think it was those are, like, the 3 requirements for that teams had to give players. Alright, but sorry, we've gone down a tangent where we've gone down a rabbit hole talking about a bunch of different stuff. Let's talk about the teams. And let's talk about the players that are hitting free agency. Only benefits that changed was housing yeah. I think that sounds about right, because I think the housing was a little too limited. I don't know if they're forced to give stipends anymore, at least in some capacity. Alright, let's do it. Atlanta Reign. So Atlanta Reign had a pretty average season in the grand scheme of things. So option decline for Ursa is surprising, but also not surprising at the same time. Ursa just didn't play this year, and I don't know why. He was like a lot of like people's like MVPs of the season if he like played well, but he just never really played. He played like only May and stuff like that. So we don't really know what happened with that. Also, Saucy gets signed, but also never really plays under this roster. So we lose Ursa and Saucy. Um, so Sharp is staying on the team just because he's under an existing contract, which means he signed a 2-year contract when he signed it. And Edison, the option exercise is not too surprising. FRD is gone, not surprising. Hawk and Gator, the option is exercised. So they're on 1+1s, but that pretty much guarantees that they will be coming back as the DPS lineup for, as the tank lineup for the Lorraine. And they dropped Pokpo, which isn't too surprising. I think they sort of really want to put their eggs in the Gator basket. And the support lineup, Fire. This is something that I think the Overwatch League does incredibly poorly. When teams want to have rosters which have depth, but like players like Fire and people that are good contenders players that get signed to an Overwatch League team who don't need them. Fire essentially signed as the backup for the Atlanta Reign and just never really played over Masar. And because of that, he just sort of spent a year in the league, didn't prove anything, probably lost a lot of his skills because he wasn't really practicing as hard and like being able to get match time. And then he loses his option. Is anyone really going to sign Fire? Like, maybe someone might take a risk, but there's going to be a lot of players who exist under the same idea that Fire's in, where he's just going to fall by the wayside and then just never really get his shot to prove himself as a top tier main sport. Because I think he has potential and he could be a great player. It's not going to happen. Dogman being a free agent is interesting. I'm interested to see what Dogman's going to do. He seems like the kind of guy who could retire. There's a couple of them this season who could retire and go do something else. He does like doing, analysis. Maybe he'll join me on the desk. I don't know. We'll see. But it'll be interesting to see if he still wants to play. Especially want to play on the Atlanta Reign. That's, 2 years now with the Reign. Maybe he wants to try the luck, but then as someone said, who's going to sign Dogman? Is anyone, with how many phenomenal flex supports there are, especially in free agency right now, is anyone going to go for Dogman? He's a great Western flex support, but who knows? Dogman, Custa, Des, Monk-S. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe he's coming for my job. So we've got Iris coming for the option exercise, and Masai's coming back as well. So, overall, it seems like they're keeping the same bones of the team. A lot of the old guard for the Atlanta Reign are leaving, but they're keeping the same ideology in a way where they're going to be doing a mixed roster. And I think they're probably just going to try and pick up the best players that they can in their opinions. I feel like Dogman is what Chipsa was meant to be. Marketable streamer, super entertaining. Yeah, but Chipsa was never going to play. Chipsa, when he was signed, the only way Chipsa ever played was if a Doomfist meta became incredibly prominent. I would say. I don't see any other situation in which he would have ever played. And even then, it would have been questionable. Chipsa doesn't really have a ton of experience playing at the top tier competitive level. It's hard to just slot in, even if he is one of the best Doomfists in the world. So why sign Dogman when Boombox is right there? And that becomes the argument. It's like, who do you think's better? Dogman, Boombox, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just becomes... there's so many free agents right now that there's every player who's looking to re-sign with a team, there's a lot of options for their role. There's generally at least one other person who does exactly what you do. He's been playing a lot of late night COD. Dogman? I don't think he'll go to COD, but we'll see. Chipsa was 100% meant to be a drop home. It was just a marketing tool. Marketing chip. Alright, Boston Uprising. Fuck me dead. They re-signed Color Hex, Fusions, and Myeonbong. Those are the 3 players, and Punk. Those are the 4 players that they've said that they're going to keep on. Which, deep down, is just me screaming. Oh, and Jerry. Option was exercised as well. So, the only person they dropped, really, was main support. They, they didn't change anything. They like kept the same team. Like, I understand, like, they had their nice little message that they came out with, like, yeah, we wanna like really prove that what we can do and what we have can be accomplished on the Boston Uprising. Like, we are Boston, we want to prove that we are better than what our legacy entails right now on this team. You want to know what I think the real truth is? And I don't want to have disrespect to any of these players. I think these players know that if they leave the Boston Uprising, they won't find another team. And that's the sad reality of it all. I think Myeonbong is really the only player right now who would find another team. And that's why I think they did it. So you got to give them that praise, but I don't expect anything different. Like, these players, they're all fine, but they're not going to get any better. They're not going to hit their limit. If they break top 15, I will be shocked. They're going to be a bottom 5 team once again. I don't see them breaking through. They once again have an issue where they have incredibly limited flexibility. They need to sign some really good backup players, but I have no faith that Boston is going to do it. Does anyone really think that Boston is going to make the right decisions and the right calls to bring in the right players? And, you know, Huck, unless Huck pulls a season 1 again, I don't see it. What about Jerry? Like, Jerry's solid, right? It's just, it's like watching a train driving into a wall every year, and then it reverses back after the season is done and dusted, and you're like, oh, that was a tragedy. And then all of a sudden the train starts rolling forward again, and you're like, no, go backwards. No, you gotta change something. You gotta go a different direction, and then it just drives straight into the wall again. So that's what it feels like again, and it's gonna be another train crash, just like Dallas. Yeah, Dallas is another prime example. Dallas is right next to them. They're on parallel train tracks, just driving towards the wall. I think about London. We're getting to London. Yeah, we're going one by one. Boston is going to win 2021. Alright, I'll hold you to that. The Brazilian runner. I got you in mind. When Boston wins 2021, I'll give you a shout out on the desk. Can you zoom in a little bit? Sure. Good call. Can't see shit, Captain. Is that better? Maybe this time they'll smash through the wall. That's every Boston fan's dream right there. It's so shit it might work. Yeah, I'm capping. Yeah. Zoom in on your non-beard, so just the eyes. Alright, Chengdu Hunters. Bacon Jack, retired. Jinmu, staying on the team. That's not too surprising. Leave, staying on the team. Jinmu and Leave, nice little pieces for the team. Almang is staying, it seems. So 18 retired. That's kind of sad. Like, just these... that's a sad retirement of just like... They get an opportunity in the league and then they just retire. Else is saying, Late Young staying, so it seems. They might make changes later. Yeah, like... They can drop them later. And they might... But we'll see. Lengsa gets dropped. Molly is staying, which isn't too surprising. Yvelta and Kyo, we'll see as time goes on. So we don't really know a whole lot what's going on with Chengdu Hunters. It doesn't seem like they're changing too much. They're staying this Chinese team. We'll see. Ameng? I've been told so many different things and I've heard so many different things I don't even know what it is at this point. Maybe I'll get a name check before the season. Chengdu seems like they're chilling. Yeah, Chengdu really do just seem like they're chilling. They're not really changing a whole lot. So we'll see. So we don't really need to talk too much about this. At least, you know, we talked about Boston driving the train and it started going again. Dallas Fuel blew up the train. They set it on fire and then it exploded, which honestly I kind of like. I'm fine with it. Worse things have happened at this point of Dallas blowing up the team. So props to them for finally pulling the trigger. My biggest complaint, obviously, sorry, Doha is the sole survivor. This was pretty much a battle royale at this point, and Doha made it out. But the question is, what direction are they going to go? Are they going to go full Korean? Keeping Doha gives me an idea that they're leaning in that direction. They dropped all of their coaches. Am I correct about this? Have I forgotten about them like signing a new coach or anything? Because they dropped Vol'jin. Obviously don't have Aero anymore. Yong is still there. Just Yong. Okay. And he was an assistant coach, right? He hasn't been promoted to like head coach or anything. So they need a head coach, yeah, and a GM. Well, this was my next point, talking about Dallas. They need a massive change of management. Something fundamentally is not right with how they manage. I've played under the management that exists. I love Tasmo. I really like Hastro. Those guys were great to me, but they have not done a good job building the Dallas Fuel. And now that they're doing a massive rework, I really hope they make those changes as well. I hope that they're not just going to be like, change the coaches, change the players. I think they need a top to bottom overall overhaul of this roster and something that is going to be like a new identity for this team, because they're obviously moving away from the Western style. So I hope they do something crazy. Same problem exists at NBA across all games, yeah. Supposed to be your boss, not your friends. Exactly. And like, that's it. You got to give them, like, I love those guys, but you know, their track record speaks for itself. For Dallas Fuel, for the amount of money and how much mismanagement there has been throughout the last 3 seasons, something fundamentally needs to change. So I really hope that's what we see from Dallas. Not much else we can really talk about with this team. They, as you said, they blew it up. I hope they completely blow it up and build it from the ground up. I think Doha is a good piece to start with, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see them pick up a lot of Korean contenders players. I hope they don't go all Korean and call it GGs, especially if they don't have the infrastructure to support a Korean team. We saw how that went for the Vancouver Titans. They picked up a full Korean team, but the infrastructure wasn't there. And that ultimately led to why the players and the coaches and everything, there was such a divide between the two. If you don't have the right pieces to sort of work together, then it's not going to work in the long term. Have there been any leaks you know yet? Well, I wouldn't say anything if I did know anything. No, Crimzo, no, only got Paintbrush and Free Agency. I think those are all great players and like players that have good potential to do great things. The issue with those players is there is a massive market for Western free agent players in a lot of different roles. And then it becomes, who do you want to take the risk on? Who do you think is the better player? I wouldn't be surprised if there is a ton of trials for a bunch of teams that go Western, but we still need to work out which teams are going Western. And are these Western teams going to sign old guard players, or are they going to take risk on newer players? Okay, like contenders players. Are we going to see another team like the Toronto Defiant? Like the Toronto Defiant sort of did that last year, right? Where they signed so many free agent players that were Western, that had experience in the league, but were pretty much capped with where they were in the league. Like they had all really sort of played out their part, and you knew what you were going to get, but it wasn't going to be phenomenal. Toronto Defiant was never going to win the league. Toronto Defiant, everyone overhyped, in my opinion, because of the experience that the roster has, but I think experience isn't anywhere near as strong as potential. And we've seen that over the last 2 seasons, that young players that haven't really had as much experience, but have incredible potential, are the ones that have been massively successful within the league. You sure you wouldn't say anything? Oh, come on, bro. Defiant Season 3 was Outlaws Season 1 all over again, a boy band. Yeah, well, they signed a bunch of players that were marketable and friendly and stuff like that, but that doesn't translate to competitive. Yeah, give Decode an ICO team? Yeah, like honestly, I would love to see a couple of these contenders players that have been working their asses off and that want that grind. Especially like, Overwatch League players, at some point, and this happened to me, at some point, you just become over it. You become washed. You stop grinding as much as what you did in the past. You stop wanting it as more. You can coast by just practicing and doing that little bits, but you're not grinding to be number one anymore. And that is the value of having these contenders players, is they have everything to prove and everything to gain, and they want to do that. Well, I think there are a lot of players in this league right now that are just cashing in a paycheck and just showing up to matches and just being like, oh, fuck it, we lost. Obviously, they want to win, but like they don't really want to win. That grind, that drive is not there anymore to continue to improve and to try and be better. And I think that's the major issue that I think we're seeing in the league, and that's why you see these teams that theoretically should be successful, but aren't. Alright. Move on. Florida Mayhem. Sire player, or should I say Spider, is now at Valorant, so we all saw that thing. Free agency on BQB. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those ones where Florida Mayhem will re-sign BQB. I think he had a great season. No reason to drop him as a hit scan. Yaki stays under the existing contract. Fate, they can extend his option. I would be surprised if they moved away from Fate. I think Fate had a really good season, proving that he still is a strong leader and deserves to be in the league as a main tank. Gargoyle, I would be shook if he also didn't want to stay with the Mayhem. These are players that I expect to stay. Gargoyle, BQB, I expect to be the ones that I fully expect. They said they dropped Karyan, right? They had a tweet. Haven't they said? Am I like just thinking this up, or are we just like Karyan is gonna leave? Karyan was released. Karyan and Chris, right? Yes, and I agree with that decision. I remember talking about that now. Karyan and Chris are released. Sire player retired. Did Byram also? And Byram, right? Yeah, Byram is gone as well. So pretty much it sort of speaks for itself. That pretty much lends, if they're saying that these players have been released and they have the same circumstances, that means that BKB is probably staying, it means that Gargoyle is probably staying, and Faye is probably staying as well. So I expect to see the bones of Florida Mayhem stay. The value that this team has is they have Kuki, who has links to Runaway. They have players. They have a good team that players are going to want to go to the Florida Mayhem, and I think they might win free agency, especially with a lot of these younger contenders players that might potentially want to go to Florida Mayhem. So, Toby Florida, I don't want to see Toby. Toby is one of those players I think is washed. I love Toby. I love Toby more than anyone else in this chat. You guys can't fucking say otherwise. But Toby is not a good main support anymore. His Mercy's okay. Pretty solid. But his Lucio is just not good. Trust me, I was in the same fucking spot. His Lucio is just not that good anymore. In the comparison of what these other main supports are, and what you're looking for at this level, when you're Florida Mayhem and you want to go top 3, Toby is not the main support that you sign to take you there. Toby has been underwhelming on the Seoul Dynasty for too long. He has benched his replacement 3 times already. Not true. Not true. That is 100% not true. Toby, who did Toby beat? Toby outdid somebody on the Seoul Dynasty. Fuck. Who was it before? Who am I thinking of? Like, no. Jexay. Okay, so he outdid Jexay. Gambler was not good, and that is why he's not in the league anymore. Jexay, I think, was very passive and very underwhelming until he went to the Houston Outlaws, where I think he changed his style and was a ton more impactful. And Slime, he did not outdo Slime. Slime has not played. There has not been a Lucio meta since Slime joined the team. There was not a single Lucio meta, in my opinion, that Slime could have played, and it was pretty much purely Mercy from that situation. I don't believe he did not bench Slime. What makes Toby not good? He just doesn't have impact. In my opinion, he does not have impact within the game that these other main supports do. Toby is not as good as everyone thinks he is, and I think he is at that point where he has capped himself, that I don't see him getting better to the point where he will compete with those players. And I think if you are going for a championship caliber team, Toby is not the option. I think you are better off taking a risk on a lower contenders main support, or somebody else who, like, or trying to get, spend a lot of money to get a good main support. Toby deserves to be in the league. I think he can definitely compete within the league, but I would not want to see him go to the Florida Mayhem. I think that would not be an upgrade. That would make me go, wow, this Florida Mayhem is really leveling up. He outdid Lee Jae on a Mercy. No, I don't want to, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that this one match in which Seoul played Shanghai, where Shanghai didn't play anyway like they usually do. You know why Lee Jae entered and Toby didn't? Because Lee Jae does things usually. Toby doesn't. Toby just fucking coast by, chilling, playing non-aggressive, just not doing anything. And he was playing Mercy. We all knew Toby has a solid Mercy. But on Lucio, Toby, if you want to say to me that you think Toby has a better Lucio than Lee Jae, then you're just delusional. Lee Jae can work on things, and I think he has a great mindset, and I would not expect him to make those mistakes again. But Toby, I don't think is at that. And I'm not trying to be rude to Toby. I'm not trying to be rude to anyone. I like Toby. He's had such a historical presence throughout the entirety of the Overwatch League and Overwatch in general. And I think he's been a phenomenal player. I just don't think he is the player I would want to see join this Florida Mayhem team when I know they're playing for a championship. You think Toby could coach? I think Toby could definitely coach. He seems like a smart player and a smart guy. Thank you for the 50 months, Belly. Sorry I missed that. Mayhem is a good word for what's going on in these Florida these days. Yeah. Would you put Chris in the same boat as Toby? No, Chris is worse than Toby. Toby would be an upgrade to Chris. I'm not saying that Toby is a bad player. That is not the narrative that I'm trying to say here, right? But he is not a championship caliber main support that I think you need to bring into a roster. If you are trying to build a roster that is going to be one of the best, I don't think Toby is the solution. So what you're saying is he's a bad player. What about Animo? We'll get to Animo. That's my opinion. I like the direction the Florida Mayhem is going. I'm not saying Lee Jae is worse than I'm saying Toby is not anyway washed, like Custa said. Maybe washed is an extreme word for what I'm saying. Maybe I think Toby's peaked is a better way to say what I'm saying. I don't think he's a championship main support anymore. I don't think he's that player that you should be signing if you want to be if you want to be the best. I think he's shown throughout the seasons that he's good, but I don't think he's great. How can you say that when he got closer to a trophy than this season than ever before? If you think the reason that the Seoul Dynasty got close to a trophy was because of Toby, then you're just kidding yourself. The reason they got anywhere close was because of Profit and Gesture, hitting a perfect meta in the final hours. It is not because of Toby's god-tier Mercy. Trust me, I'm a Mercy player. You can be great, but you don't have as much impact as... you're not the person that takes you to the championship. Fitz as well had a phenomenal postseason. I'm sorry I said leave Toby alone, talk about Charge. Yeah. As I said, I don't want that to be the narrative of what I said there, that I hate Toby or that I think Toby's a bad player. That's not the narrative. Alright, let's move on. Basically, Toby was their least impactful player. Yes, is what I'm saying. Guangzhou Charge. Let's go. Eileen under existing contract. I think that's okay. I think Eileen was pretty solid this year. Happy goes into free agency. I think Happy impressed me in the second half of the season. So I'd be really interested to see if they want to keep him or if they want to go in another direction. Crystal obviously being released and Nero saying he's free agency, not going to be on the team. So Eileen and Happy, if they build around that, I think they can add another DPS and it'll look good. We have Krong is staying, obviously, been incredible. I would be surprised if they dropped Rio as well. I think Rio's been pretty good, especially seeing as they've been declining options, but they haven't declined Rio's yet. So we see Chara, Neptuno, and Weir all out. Have they announced like officially who's not coming back? What's the official listing of that? There's just so much shit that I gotta remember. Anyone got like just a quick Chara, Neptuno, Weir, Crystal. Okay. That's pretty much what we expected. Shu probably staying if they can re-sign him. Obviously, he's in free agency. So let's talk about Nero. I think Nero is a great flex DPS, and I'm really interested to see where he goes. I think any Western team would value, but Nero has, yeah. Well, my guess is that he's looking around. He probably think Glads. If Glads go that right direction, but I also think that they have Mirror still, right? Glad to have Mirror still, so I'm interested to see. I think Nero and Mirror have a very similar style of playing the Nero to Outlaws feels pretty likely, not gonna lie. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, I can see Nero going to the Outlaws. What if Nero went to Valiant? And you have KSP, KSF, Nero, Shax. Yeah, you could potentially drop KSF for that. I think Nero probably is better than KSF. I do like my boy Carl Smiles. But I think Nero potentially has more impact. And I don't know if either one of them want to be the bench boys. So, I think both of them have a spot in the league. I just don't know where it ends up. But I think it's too early to tell. Like, we don't really know what's going on with the Houston Outlaws, what's going on with all these teams. But I think Nero, I don't expect Nero to stay in free agency outside of the season. I expect him to get signed by somebody. I hope he becomes a starter on some Western team and he really sort of like comes into his own as a player, because I think he's been in a lot of tough situations. I think he's done a great job overcoming them. Think even more teams are going full Korean? I have no idea. It's impossible to tell. It's like maybe Dallas is. London isn't. It's really hard to really know. 23rd is free agent signing. I'm not 100% sure when the dates are. What's happening to Kevstar? I have no idea. Let's keep going down and we'll find out. So let's go to the Spark. Let's talk about this. Addo. So they announced Addo, Adora, Rhea, and Bebe all got cancelled, right? Everyone else is still under contract, pretty much. Sashin as well? Okay. So it doesn't say on here, but Sashin is gone as well. So that means they're keeping pretty much the core six that they usually play with. Architect, Godsby, Gushway, QIQ, Coldest, IDK. And they're keeping Mika as well. I don't hate it. I like it. I think they can make a couple of off-season signings. My biggest, like, people forget. I talked about the Spark. In our Plat Chat Power Rankings, I said Spark was going to be bad. And Johnny and Sideshow laughed at me and they didn't agree with me. I hated that they kept Sashin, Adora, fucking Bebe. Like, I think those players, I just think those players weren't good players. I think that they needed to get rid of these players earlier and they needed to make upgrades. I'm glad they're making these decisions. They look like they're trying to become a better team and they're trying to fill the voids rather than just being like, fuck it, it sort of worked last year. Maybe it was a shot caller. See, I don't, like, people say that shit. Baby was the shot caller. I don't fucking know if Baby was the shot caller. You guys don't know that. Like, maybe there's a Reddit thread somewhere that I haven't read, or so there's like a thing. Like, I don't know the impact that Bebe has within the functioning of the team. I can only tell you what I saw with my eyes, and my eyes told me that he wasn't the best option. And especially with how many phenomenal players there are in the league, in the support role, like, he just wasn't. It wasn't it. Alright. But I don't honestly have a whole lot to say. As I said, they kept the bones of what the good parts of the team were. I really like that, so I'm interested to see who they sign during the offseason. Houston Outlaws. Holy shit. Okay. As far as we're aware, everyone is free agent, except... did I miss this? I didn't realize Mecca had been announced. That he was free agent and he got declined. We talked about it. He had to let LFT. Right. Oh, I do remember looking at that tweet actually now. But call my GM, yeah. So they declined. Boink is gone. I know we're all shocked by this news. I don't know how we'll go on, but Boink is not going to be here. Jexay, Repel, and Meko are option declined, which makes me think that they're all going LFT, and they probably won't come back to the Outlaws, which inherently means that I think they're probably going Western. They said in their tweet, right, that they're going Western, right? Like that, like they sort of like scooched in there like a Western, like it kind of seemed a little tacky how they did it, but they like sort of like Western team. Coolmat said they're going Western. But yeah, they did it. Which, alright, that's all we know. So, the only player that really... The fact that Blase, Linksa, and Muma all gave LFTs, the only player they have on this team is Hydration. Don't know what that fucking means. Is he going to play main tech? I really hope that the only piece that the Houston Outlaws... This would be the most Houston Outlaws thing that's ever happened, is that the only piece that they have to build around is Hydration main tech. But I don't see him going back to DPS. I don't see it happening. Hydration is DPS? Yeah, but then you run into that issue of, does he still have it as a DPS player? Like, it's hard to play main tank for 6 months and then come back and then expect to be one of the best DPS players and play at the level. He didn't play as... Well, he played Farah, didn't he? And yeah, you guys are like, yo, he totally did it. He totally played DPS in the finals. It was sick. We came last, but he did it. Fucking, yeah, I played Lucio and we came last. Yeah, it doesn't count for anything. Doesn't mean I was good at Lucio. Come on. Lost to Boston, yeah. Resign and resign, yeah. Alright, but Western team, it'll be interesting. I like Coolmat. I respect Coolmat a lot. He's a really smart guy. I think he's got a good eye. How he'll do as a GM, Who knows? But he has a pretty much a blank slate to work with other than hydration. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with their team. Interesting if they come out with an idea if they spend a lot of money, or if like we see a lot more teams going budget. Maybe we see... I talked about it earlier in the stream that it feels like the bubble of player contracts was expanding to a point. This might be the breaking point, especially with COVID, everything that's happening. We don't even know what the fucking season looks like next year. Teams might just be downsizing. And that might be the reality of why we see so many free agencies and people not extending options is they don't want to spend that amount of money. And we might see a massive reduction in salaries, and that is why everything is happening. So... Junkbuck is a good signing, yes. So I think that's actually worth noting. We have Junkbuck as the co-head coach with Harsher, I think is where we're at. So here's where we are. We'll see. We'll see. London Spitfire. I don't even really want to talk about it. Maybe we can talk about the players. They fucking blew it up. It's gone. The only things worth noting, because this is like the most like C9 thing ever, is they blew it up, but they signed, or well, they kept all the players that they think they could trade. I wouldn't be surprised if they have already shopped these players and that they already have ideas of where these players are going to go. Mainly, I think that because Fuse is a really weird one to keep. Like, Fuse, Sanguinar, like, I obviously like Bernard and Glister, I think are great players who are like, they can definitely go somewhere. But, like, who wants Fuse and Sanguinar? Like, I think they like, we sort of talked about it a little bit earlier. They're kind of not very memorable for me. Throughout the season. Obviously they were on the London Spitfire, but it's interesting to see that they kept them, so it makes me think that these guys are probably going to be traded to a different team. Sanguinar is super hyped, yeah. So people have been telling me, like, I didn't notice it. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention to Sanguinar throughout the season, but people have been saying he was really pog. So, fuck it, I'm down. He's got a cool name, as you guys said. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they have options for these players. As people have been saying, Gladiators. I don't know. But they probably have options and they're probably going somewhere. But for the rest of it, London Spitfire has announced that they're going to be going European, I think is what they're sort of like going for. They have Nuki signed as the new GM. And interesting to see how they're going to do building this roster and what the London Spitfire is going to look like. I don't expect this team to be phenomenal. If anything, I expect a lot of promotions from British Hurricanes and a lot of free agent players that have experience within the league. I just expect them to pick up all the European free agent players that no one else really wants, or the players don't want anything. They'll go and they'll play their games, and they do that. They're not going to be a top team, but I think they'll be an entertaining team. I think you'll see they'll go back to being a brand team more than anything else. Linksa, yeah. I think they'll build a lot of fans. I think it's going to be cool to see a European team, like, because we just haven't really seen that in a long time. Just tell us the roster. Do you think people tell me things? People don't tell me anything. I don't even know what no one emails me anything anymore. I haven't got an email in a week. It's just like people are like, no, I can't trust him. We should tell Custa. No, don't tell Custa. Like, it's impossible. It's impossible. Has anything interesting happened on Twitter in the last, like, 5 seconds? Huck? Well, Huck is 43.51. You heard it here. Huck's gonna sign himself. That's the solution. We got Huck to Al. We fucking did it. Let's go, boys. There's a Custa leak emote for a reason. Okay, it should have an egg in the background for my leaky emote because Uncle Egg fucking threw me under the bus. It should be an egg with a leak. No eggs, no leaks. Leaky egg. How bad is head coach? I don't hate co-head coaches as long as there's a fundamental ideal behind the two teams. Theoretically, when you look at the Houston Outlaws and we're talking about how they're doing co-head coach, my guess is Harsh is going to be more of the player support coach, while Junkbuck is going to be more strategic, gameplay, team-orientated stuff. That is how I'm sure they're going to be divvying up the roles. It all comes down to how much ego do those two head coaches have on, you know, those type of things. But I don't see that being a big issue. Could teams be going cheap because they lost confidence in our success? I really hope not. I wouldn't say it's lost confidence in our success. I think our is not as big as everyone expected it to be. But on top of that, player contract inflation was just absurd. And at some point, it has to normalize. What are you getting back on Plat Chat now the season's over? I think they're all happy doing their own thing right now. Obviously, I'm always down to be on Plat Chat. Those boys know that I'm always down to be on. But I think they're all just happy doing it themselves. You know, it is their baby. It is the thing that they've built. I respect what they've done. But I don't know if they'll bring me on for the Plat Chat preseason rankings again. T-Shock, yeah, we're getting there. All right, Gladiators. Gladiators, where we end up? Is there an official announcement of who they've dropped? Obviously, we have LH Clady out, Bishu out, from I think OGE out. Big Goose and Shaz have left/retired, and then we have Jaru on the way out as well. That means is we have Birdring, Kevster, Mira as the DPS lineup. I actually don't mind that DPS lineup. I think all three of them showed good looks throughout the season, and I think they could actually do pretty solid with them. OGE getting dropped is interesting, but no one knows what the fuck is up with OGE. OGE, mechanically talented for sure, but just cannot seem to find his footing on a team here. I also think, you know, you see how publicly he is on Twitter about certain things happening. I think he's a liability to have at certain points, and I think maybe teams are starting to realize it, and it seemed like there was, yeah, as you said, vague tweeting about OGE and stuff like that. Who knows? We'll see what OG does. I think he's a great player, but it always feels like he should be doing better than he is. Space is raking in that money. Oh yeah, Space he's got an option. We all know he made big money last season. He's making big money this season. Space is fucking collecting a bag, as he should. I think he's the best Western off tank we have in the game. His comms, his energy, and just his individual play, just incredible. Sport lineup is interesting. What direction do they go in at this point, right? If you are the Gladiators, who do you sign as supports? We ain't got no supports. Moth, Kariv. Boom. Ship it, clip it. Gladiators, sign Moth, Kariv. I will be a Gladiators fan. And then who we get as a main tank? Mag? Ooh. Gladiators drop a bag on Mag? But then we go all the way back. If we get Mag in the tank line, next to Space, Kariv, and Moth, all of a sudden I'm like, this DPS lineup is not going to keep up. This DPS lineup just ain't going to keep up with what they got. Because I love Birdring and Mirror and Kevster, but they had some shaky performances. But maybe that's because the team was struggling. Because if you have that lineup, all of a sudden I think like we're going to, the tank lineup of Mag, Space, and then with supports, Kariv, Moth is like, that's a top 3 support line, top 5 support lineup, and tank lineup. Moth and Super to Glads. That could be good. You get Space Super. Dude, that's the bag that you drop, right? If you're ever going to drop a bag on a team, if you're the Gladiators, you sign Super Moth. Because then you got Super Space Moth. You would just gain and you put Kariv in there as well, you would gain so many fans just like instantly. I am salivating, yes. I'm just thinking of this, and it's just too good. I think, yeah, I could definitely be underrating Berger and Kevster. I could definitely be underrating Berger and Kevster Mirror. They could easily prove me wrong and prove that they are one of the teams. But yeah, as you said, that's a very expensive team. Like that's a lot of money that they're throwing around. But like, if you have Birdring in space already, like they're already dropping bags on players. You may as well commit. Yeah, Kevster was on high ping. Yeah. Custa's literally just building this 2021 fantasy team. It's like, oh, this is spicy, dude. I didn't even think about that for Gladiators. And Gladiators have proven that they're willing to put the bag down. That would be a cool team. I think that's... Gladiators have some good things to work with, for sure. I think opening up their support line, because we talk about how many free agent support players there are these days as well. Gladiators. Gladiator. Dun, dun, Gladiator. Stop slurping. No. I think Super would leave San Francisco Shock. I think it's more likely that Super leaves Shock than a lot of people think. I wouldn't be surprised if Super goes somewhere and just gets a bag, but also wants to be a starter. Or he goes full-time streamer. But those are kind of the same things. Mr. Bleeple, thank you for the fresh sub. I think it's more likely that he retires and becomes a full-time streamer. I think he has the momentum to be a full-time streamer. He's doing a phenomenal job. He can make way more money being a streamer, and if that's something that he really wants to do, the question becomes, does he have the competitive drive that makes him so that he doesn't want to leave? Yeah, like Super can be the next XQC. Exactly. I think Super has a phenomenal personality for streaming. I think he would do very well full-time streaming, but it's hard to do when you are a player. The only reason he's been able to be so successful this season as a streamer is because he's been benched a lot of the time. So he can show up to scrims, do all that kind of stuff, keep practicing, but he also has the time to stream. If he's looking at his... Like, I would be... It's hard to keep a full-time stream up with competing. But yeah, I think it might be a thing that Super loves playing way too much. And that's what I said. But on that note, if you're going to do that, I think playing on the Shock is the worst of the three options. Because I don't think he's completely committing to either one. I think you either stream, make the bag, and be incredibly successful with that and build that, or you play and you go full as a player. Does he want to win on the Shock, or does he want to play? Because it feels like with Smurf right now, especially with how good of a season he had, unless Reinhardt becomes meta, I don't really see Super really stepping into the lineup. Super's stream grew a lot because of COVID. No, it's not only just because of COVID, it's just everything. He can't really, yeah. Super can't lose. He can do any of the three, and he's successful. Fucking Super's living the dream right now in terms of just options and where he is in life. So, gotta give him that. But I don't think we really know right now. With Smurf and Choi, tough to get as much playing time as he needs. Yeah, exactly. But obviously Super's a phenomenal player. He came in the finals with that Roadhog. Super is also the face of At this point, he is Shock's golden boy. Well, I don't want to scare anyone, but if you haven't looked at this document, there's a scary thing coming down from you. They don't have a fucking choice. Super can do whatever the hell Super wants. And if they want to keep him, I'm sure they're going to have to drop a bag on him. Why are we talking about Shock? Sorry, we got distracted. All right. Los Angeles Valiant. I'm sorry, I just clapped into the microphone. Sorry. LA Valiant. Apply, drop. So far as we know, apply, gig, McGravy, dropped. Okay. Lastro, Rain are staying as the support lineup. Great decision. I think they both played incredibly well. Rain exceeded everyone's expectation. And Lastro, I'm surprised that Valiant got Lastro, but Lastro was incredibly good. Dreamer, I did like Dreamer, but I don't think I would like to see a second main tank come in through this thing, and then off tank is completely open. KSP and Shaq's options are exercised. I think these two are so good in their situation. Sex, big dick, exactly. KSP and Shaq's are no-brainers. Shax fills that role as the secondary hit scan, KSP as the hit scan because he is a robot. The question becomes, do they keep KSF? Do they find someone else that they think is better for the Flex CVS? I think KSF's solid, but not great. I think if they, especially knowing Valiant, I think if they can find a better player, they will. But I wouldn't be shocked if they did re-sign him eventually. Going back to what we talked about earlier, I agree that I think Nero is probably the person that you would put in over KSF. If they have the opportunity to get Nero over KSF, I think they would. Off tank is interesting. Like, who do you get as an off tank for the Los Angeles Valiant? Decay. Bernard? Bernard's an interesting one. Meko? Poco? KSA? I honestly think it's impossible to really know. I wouldn't be surprised if Valiant, in the true Valiant fashion, just do a lot of tryouts and then find someone that fits the best for them. I think Bernard, KSA, Meko are all interesting. Is Fury a free agent? Why do I think Fury is a free agent? I can't remember.
Wobble wobble, motherfucker.
Drew's thing for the 27 months. Whoops, my hand slipped. He is, yeah. Fury's free agent. Janu was free agent as well, I think, as I said. There are options for sure. Why'd they get rid of McGravy? I think they just assumed that they can get a better option. They can get a better player. Like McGravy, I put McGravy on the same place that I put KSF. They're solid. But I think if you have other options, you should look into them. Like, I think KSF and Gravy have a spot in the league. I think Valiant are very greedy and that they want to get the best players that they can. And I think they believe in their ability to get them as well. They can get upgrades. Like, I don't see them going for someone like Note or like people that they also think are like, they're on the same level as McGravy that you sort of know what you're getting. KSF, McGravy, Toby, all these players. When you buy them, you know what you're getting. I don't think you're ever expecting anything above that. You're not expecting anything really below that. You know what you're signing up for. And that is sort of goes back into my point of what I was talking about with Toby, is if you're looking to make upgrades, these probably aren't the players that you're going to sign unless obviously you're the Boston Uprising, where you can sign anybody and it might be an upgrade. And Notes, I put Note on that same pedestal. You know what you're going to get with Note. Gravy says that they want a playmaker, but he's more of a team player. Yeah, exactly. That sort of goes with my thinking. They know what you're going to get with Gravy. That didn't fit their team. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to see what Valiant ends up doing. I think they're keeping the bones of what worked for them last season, but not afraid to take risks on dropping the players that they had question marks around, which I like. I think that's how you need to make teams and keep improving year in, year out. Otherwise, you become stagnant. Kind of like we saw last season from teams like the Spark. What other team just like didn't really make changes? Like MYXL. I guess they added like Huxel and Who Are You, so I guess that's not as applicable. Charge, Chengdu, yeah. Like if you don't change your roster, but you expect a better performance, like you're just assuming that all your players are gonna glow up, and that's unlikely, right? So, moving on to everybody's favorite fucking Golden Child / Dumpster Fire. Somehow they are the same thing at the same time. Golden Dumpster Fire. I think that is a good way to put it. They are a good team with great players that just never live up to expectations. So, let's go down the list. Haksal retired, gone. Libero potential extension, Sabyolbi potential extension, Mano extension, Animo extension, Jonak extension. And we have Mundu who's staying under the contract. What this says to me is they are not changing the core of this team yet again. We're literally going back to 2018, pretty much. That's fine. Is it fine? Is it fine? If anyone says sign Pine... No, we are not signing Pine and Meko. That's just like... That's not even doing what I said before, where it's like not doing anything. That's literally going backwards. It's like, you know how we talked about the trains, and Boston's the train driving towards the wall? NYXL's the train that just never got out of reverse gear. And it just seems to always go backwards. Backwards is somewhere? Yeah, but it ain't forwards, that's for sure. Alright, so let's talk about this. So, Huayu's gone, Nene's gone, Bianca's gone, Hopper's gone. This team needs a hit scan player. Don't you dare say Pine or Sabyolbi hit scan. I'll throw hands. Glister. Glister is a great option. Pine. Anyone... I'm gonna ban Pine from my fucking stream chat. I swear to God. Happy is interesting. Decay is interesting. Glister's interesting. I think 3 are great options that I think would round out this thing. The issue that you run into is if you just sign a hit scan player, then you need Libero to play all the flex DPS heroes, right? But for some reason, Libero just doesn't play the flex DPS characters. He plays McCree. For some reason. I can't answer why. I can't tell you how. But this is where we are. Mano is still a great main tank. I'm saying this genuinely, not because Arena would stab me if I didn't say otherwise, but I think Mano definitely is still a great main tank. Jonak, obviously, still a great flex support. I think he always has spun the league. I don't think he's as dominant as he was in the past, but still great. Animo is where we'll open the floor, because I've said this for a long time. I don't think Animo is a great Lucio. I did a lot of his review in Season 2, because he was on NYXL. I like to watch what players do. Very low impact. Doesn't have a different style other than protect the president. That is Jonak. NYXL are keeping the bones of their 2018 roster, but they're playing a style that exists in the past where they're trying to protect Jonak. No one plays like that anymore. The best flex supports are the ones that are making their own plays, playing their own aggression, and doing all that kind of stuff. They need to put more resources into their tanks and into their DPS to enable them to be successful. So, the question becomes, can they adjust Animo's style so that he will be able to play that way? Or should they be putting more resources into trusting Mandu? I like keeping Animo on this lineup, but I would love to... We didn't see much Mandu, and I would love to see more of him and see them change the way they fundamentally play the game. That is the right direction for NYXL. But their coaching staff is just questionable. I don't understand what they're fucking doing. And I don't like their strategies, their compositions, who they played at certain times were just we saw so many weird things. We saw Libero playing hit scan. We didn't see Nene at all. I know he was injured, but like we barely even saw it. We saw them switching, and as soon as something worked, they changed for a week, and then they change, and then they change. I really hope we see a new coaching staff coming in for this team, and that they do a massive overhaul of from the up. I don't hate the roster that they have right now, especially if they make good signings. But the coaching needs to come in. KDG is the obvious one that we need to talk about, right? That seemed like Philly did so well and they were so successful that makes me think that NYXL potentially could have just dropped a bag on KDG. But I don't see Philly just not... I don't know. Potentially KDG. What is this? Ask, are you choking? This is the universal choking. Should NYXL drop Jonak? No. They need to change the style. Jonak's still a great player. They just need to find a way. KDG left Philly, yeah. KDG and Fury. Yeah. Mono Fury, KDG. Sign a really good hit scan player. I could dig it. I could fuck with it. Interesting. Janu? They could do Janu as well. Janu seems like a weird one. I don't really know what's going on with Washington. We'll get to Washington later. Not Stitch. Alright. That's my rant with NYXL. Paris Eternal. It doesn't seem like they're changing anything, right? No Smite and Smexagon, nothing real changed. Everyone's sort of saying, Fielder, we have a couple of contracts that are free agency or that kind of stuff. I don't really expect much to change for this lineup. I think they're pretty confident in it. I could see them dropping Nico, but I think if Nico's happy to play on this roster and just sort of play that main role, I think he sort of has that very unique role in the lineup, and I think I kind of like it. Like, I really like Sparkle and Exy, and then you just have Soon and Nico as those, like, specialists. Like, you have Soon as that Tracer specialist, you have Nico thing, and if they focus on that, then I think they'll be good. Bendest to play the Reinhardt, but they need a Winston. They need a really good main tank, in my opinion. I don't want them to lean on Benbest to just improve at Winston. Right? So Muse is getting picked up by Paris. Muse Overwatch. So he's on their academy team. So this is who they're going for. Interesting. Is a Prodigy? I want to watch this Contenders final. I want to watch the Korean Contenders because I haven't watched a lot of it. So I'm gonna go back. Like, I've been meaning to because it happened over the weekend. I want to go back and see the players that are on it. It's not confirmed. Korean Contenders. I heard Korean Contenders was pretty fucking sick. So, and now you want to watch Overwatch Contenders? Of course, I want to watch Contenders now because now it's relevant to the league. So I'm excited to. I want to go see what these guys have to do. Custa's bored now. Yeah, that's it. I don't have to watch fucking all the R games. I don't have to fill my time with Boston games. I have spare time because I don't have to watch Boston Uprising play in the league anymore. So I have other things I can do. Gatekeeping Custa out of Contenders. Yeah. The grand final for Korea Contenders is 3 PDD. Yeah. 18K last week. Yeah, I think they've done a great job of keeping that going. All right. Keep it going. Yeah, I think the bones are right there. I think they get a good main tank, which we're talking about. I think main tanks are probably the most... There's the most good main tanks coming out of Contenders, from what I've heard. And I think FD God... I would be surprised if Fielder didn't re-sign with these guys. I think FD God Fielder is really good. Maybe another support would be nice, but we'll go. Chinese Contenders might be the best region right now. Oh, I don't know about that. Alright. Philadelphia Fusion. Chipser and EQO are gone. Ivy, Hisu and Carpe are staying. Ivy has a free agent, but could be re-signed. I think Carpe, Hisu, Ivy is good. The only issue that they run into is they need a Tracer player that isn't Carpe. Like, I would like to see them sign another Tracer player, because I would rather have Carpe stay as the primary hit scan player, or Hisu needs to learn how to play Tracer at that level. Because I don't want to see Hisu going into that hit scan player and Carpe playing the Tracer. So Hisu can play Tracer, yeah, but they didn't show a willingness, right? If they're going to go into a Widow Tracer meta, I want to see Hisu going into it. I just don't ever want to see Carpe going off of that hit scan. Jake's return. Jake's finally coming out. Fury's free agent, which is interesting. Poco... Has Poco announced that he's a free agent or anything? Is there anything that we don't know? Like, Boombox is gone. Funny Astro and Alarm are staying. No news on Poco. Alright. So we don't know anything about their tanks. It's kind of hard to talk about their tanks if we don't know what they're planning on doing with it. I don't mind their tanks. Like, I think Sato, Fury, Poco is good. I would be surprised if Fury and Poco wanted to stay on the same roster. Like, if I was Poco, I'd probably want to leave. Like, I heard there's a great European team forming up that probably wants to drop a bag. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this team does. We don't really have enough information. It'll be interesting to see who they get as a new head coach. I think is worth noting as well. Poco and EQO to Spitfire. It'll be interesting to see if EQO does find a team. Has he said he's looking for a team, or did he retire? Alright, I can't follow that video. That's the Philadelphia Fusion. Alright, the San Francisco Shock. Arns is staying. Russell is in free agency. Striker is staying. Tayo is staying. It'll be interesting to see how they utilize Tayo going into next season. So we got Choi and Smurf staying. Everyone's surprised. We talked about Super earlier of free agency. So Super is now in free agency. He can do whatever the hell he wants. As I was talking about before, I think Super has three options. He either plays on Shock with a very niche role of playing the Reinhardt and like flex tank role in a little bit, slash Genji, or he signs with another team in which he can be a starter, but he probably gets a ton of money, or he can retire and become a streamer, because this is probably the best opportunity he's going to have to become a streamer, because he's very relevant in Twitch right now. So we'll be seeing what happens, but I think it looks good. And then Twilight and Violet are... Oh, I didn't realize Violet's a free agent. Oh my lord. I assume Violet's just going to stay. I don't see Violet leaving. I think he's probably pretty happy here. So they'll probably drop a bag of Violet. I don't think Violet has said he wants to leave or anything like that. I think they'll try and keep Russell. I don't know. Russell's an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see if Rascal stays or not, or what happens with that. They'll never separate from each other. Yeah. So I think Violet and Twilight. Okay, so let's do a hypothetical, right? Because we need, like, let's be realistic with this. Let's say Moth leaves. Who do they sign to replace Moth? Slime. Toby. Funny Astro. No, Funny Astro had his contract extended, I think. They want Western players? Do they? Has to be Boink. Scott Custa Kennedy. Yo, Pog. I just... I can't think of anybody that's an upgrade to Moth. which is the issue. They could potentially go full Korean if they wanted to. But then what? Tyre is just on this team then. They might just drop a bag on Moth. We'll see. It really comes down to what Moth wants, but I wouldn't be surprised if Moth just stays. They're the best support lineup in the league so far, yeah. In his first team, he gets teabagged by returning Jake. Oh my god, dude, PTSD. I think there's a clear upgrade from Moth anywhere in the league, yeah. It sort of becomes like damage control, right? If Moth leaves the shock, it becomes damage control. Preston said in a model interview he prefers Western players. Yeah, right. We'll see. We'll see. I just thought it was an interesting speculation, but we'll see what Moth plans to do. Get that bag. Alright. Let's keep moving on. Being on Moth Mercy is really good. He played so well in the playoffs on that Mercy. Perfect lineup of aggression to playing defensive. It's not bad. Alright, Seoul Dynasty. We got Fitz, Illicit, and Profit on the team. I don't really know why options are being I guess Profit and Gesture probably had a different contract and that's why they've been locked in. To You is gone. Bedosin is gone. Creative gets signed again. Slime's a free agent. Toby's a free agent because he got declined. See, you guys talk shit, but Seoul Dynasty agrees with me about Toby. Declining doesn't mean they're dropping him. Oh, yeah, I guess they could be just reducing his contract. Or they're giving him a bag. I doubt it. I don't know. We'll see. Salary cuts. Toby dropped Soul from his Insta profile? Yeah. Like, I just think it's more like, I don't see many situations of them saying they're declined and then they get signed for a different amount of money. That's dangerous to just open a random link. I know it's a crazy offseason, but just remind Seoul Dynasty staff from working through all our options / negotiation. I can't promise anything will land, but here we are. Yeah. I think this is important to note. This was said in the pre. I think Pre made a good point of this. A reminder: declining an option doesn't mean drop from the team. For us, it just means exploring options and negotiating contract changes. We're in conversations with all of our current players and prospects. Yeah, like that's. It doesn't 100% mean that, but it doesn't. It's not a good thing. So we'll see. We'll see. This one's like, there's not a lot of information coming out of the Seoul Dynasty. I don't get it. You're sounding like Uncle Egg. I thought you were a smart one. I don't even know what that means. Not many people willingly take a pay cut. Well, I think people would take a pay cut if it was take a pay cut or don't be in the league or don't be on the team. Alright, Shanghai Dragons, let's do it. So, Ding, free agent. DM, free agent. Interesting. Dia, free agent. I don't expect Dia to get re-signed, obviously. Flatter stays, Lip stays, I think are the important ones. I think if they can keep DM and Ding, oh. I think that's still a great lineup. DM being a free agent is interesting. It'll be interesting to see if he wants to stay on the the Shanghai Dragons. It could just be renegotiations because their contracts just have expired, but Dia is fucking contenders China right now. Wait, really? Ooh, I don't see him signing with Shanghai Dragons again, though. Like, I don't think they need another DPS. I'd love to see, if Dia's pounding, I'd love to see him go to a different team now. Dia was good. Yeah, Dia was good. Like, honestly, back in the 0-40 Shanghai Dragons, Fearless Dia was pretty good. Those guys were both really solid. They just, the team just didn't work. Like, they had really bad coaching, I think, and they had bad decision making and stuff. But yeah, they'll keep 2 of the 3. I don't know which ones. Like, I think having Ding as a specialist is a good thing to have, but maybe they're just like, well, Fleta can just play those things, so maybe. This is just very up in the air. Obviously, Fleta and Lip being locked in is good for them. Alright, Tanks, Fearless is staying. Nice. Gaguri is an interesting one. I don't expect to see them re-sign Gaguri. I just think while they have Void, I just don't think Gaguri will ever play. So, it'll be interesting to see where she ends up. What goes on for that. Stam 1, I like Stam 1 and Fearless together. Stam 1 obviously has like a role in the team, so it'll be interesting. And then support lineup, Izayaki, Lee Jae-gon, phenomenal support lineup. I don't, like so Luffy's now a free agent. I don't know if they want to sign another support player. I don't think you need another support player. Luffy was solid, yeah, like, keeping a backup flex support for like a double flex support meta is always kind of nice to have. Sign a Mercy specialist. I don't know if I think Lee Jae-gon's a smart and a good enough player to like be better at Mercy. I don't think you can judge it. Like, I feel like a lot of people are using recency bias against Lee Jae-gon on his Mercy play. Custa to Shanghai as a Mercy specialist. Fine. Moon, I'm coming home. Moon, I knew you were gonna call me. I know you miss my Mercy. I can play Lucio too, Moon, if you want me to. No, you want my Lucio? Ah, okay. That's you sure? I've gotten smarter. No, okay, it's fine. Fucking hell. That's Shanghai Dragons. The reunion we all wanted. Here it goes. I have no fucking clue what they're doing. I got nothing. I literally can't give you anything. I don't know any direction. We haven't heard anything. Leak something. I honestly don't even know. They haven't given anyone anything. I don't think Toronto Defiant could literally just not be a team in the league next season. We could have 19 teams. So I don't know. So let's look at the scraps of this team. What pieces do you think get re-signed? Kariv, Logics to London. So we'll see. We'll see where this London, if this London team does want to go for a lot of Europeans, Cruz and Numlock might be a good shout for them. But I think the best players on this team is Kariv and Logics. So it'll be interesting to see where those guys go. It'll be interesting, but I can't talk about it too much because we don't fucking know anything. Shore4 retires for sure, goes into streaming or whatever Shore4 does these days. Magnitude wasn't even part of the team. Zik was pretty disappointing. I don't see him getting signed, unfortunately. Maybe goes back to contenders. I don't know what Agilities does, or if anyone takes a risk on Agilities. Agilities has a really good Genji and a really good Pharah. But I don't know where that really gets you in the league these days. He could be a good little bench boy for like some teams if they want to have someone who just like is a specialist for those. Doom is okay, yeah. We'll see. What a name. Trust me, we've all been a good little bench boy in our times. I was a good little bench boy at one point. So. Wait, what? Shawfor is retiring? Probably. Dude, that dude didn't play all season. And he just seems to stream, and we haven't heard a single thing from him in forever. If he doesn't retire, I would be shocked. No talk on Nevix? I guess Nevix is... Like, I guess Nevix is also another one that could go to the European team. I think Nevix is solid. Maybe some teams would go for Nevix. Nevix Valiant. Do you think Nevix is an upgrade to McGravy, though? I think Nevix and McGravy are... I would say I'm sort of getting around the same thing. Like, both of them could be solid, but I don't think... Yeah, like, depends on the day. Like, that's... I think if you're like, we need to drop McGravy for a better player, Nevix is not really the option, right? So, and as someone just said, they want a playmaker. I don't think Nevix is a playmaker. I think he plays the same style as McGravy, and where he's passive and he's sort of trying to hold his team better. So, I think that's where we end up. Nevix was probably the worst off-tank this year. I don't agree with that. Where the hell's my water? Alright, so we got Dalton is staying, Sooner is gone, and Shockwave is a free agent. Shockwave as a free agent is an interesting one. Someone could drop a bag on Shockwave. Is he LFT? Did he say he's LFT? Have we heard anything from him? Shockwave to LA Valiant? No, you wouldn't put Shockwave on the same team as KSP. He had not publicly. What is LFT looking for team? He's essentially saying that he wants to play for a different. Like he's available for other options. Shockwave to London? Yeah, I think Shockwave to London is a good shout. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think if you're Shockwave, unless the team of Vancouver Titans goes in a very unique direction, I think you just catch a bag somewhere else. Like I don't think you die on the Vancouver Titans hill, especially with how good he is. I think some teams would pay a lot of money for him, and he would do a lot of great things. He was so good this season. So his sign, but yeah, he's probably on 50. He was probably on 50,000. He can go to any Western team exactly and prove himself. So. I think Shockwave will probably leave if he gets an opportunity, which I would be so shocked if he doesn't. KSA option decline was interesting. They said they're releasing these players, right? Shockwave Houston. Honestly, Shockwave Houston kind of makes sense. So they said they're dropping KSA Sooner and Kaka, right? They said that they're getting rid of it, so it's not like they're renegotiating or anything. Keeping Shredlock, I didn't mind Shredlock towards the end of the season. There's potential there. Rolf, I don't hate. I know a lot of people don't like Rolf, and they think he's not very good. I agree with you that I don't think Rolf was that good this season, but I want to remind that he was on a very mediocre team. But then the question becomes, there's a lot of good flex supports that are free agents this season, I feel like. So, I don't know. I don't hate it. I think this just shows that they're still trying to build some things. For me, the make or break of this Vancouver Titans team is going to be who they sign. They seem to have signed like a lot of a mishmash of players. They need to just get something that's going to bring it all together. Get some players to fill in the gaps. Get some players, get everyone in the same area, get in the location, not playing on 200 ping. And I want to see if they can prove themselves. So I actually don't hate that they're not blowing up the team and doing something different. Seems like they got rid of the pieces that they weren't happy with. Everyone does hype up KSA a lot. I don't actually... Do you say KSR? KSAA? I just call him KSA. I think that's right. I think KSA makes sense. I think a lot of people hype him up. He didn't particularly stand out a ton for me, but he was on high ping. I question whether his limitations of getting into the country is one of the reasons that came into it, into the decision. But but as far as someone said he has U.S. citizenship, right? Or like he has a dual citizenship. So I don't really know what's going on with this team. We'll see. Okay, Washington Justice. Let's go. Let's talk about the Washington Justice. Oh boy. This is going to be interesting. So Decay is a free agent, but you know, we just looked at Pre's thing. So all of this doesn't stand for everything. Stitch decline. Here's why I think the option for Janu and Stitcher declined. I think they were on stupid money and that Washington had to pick up their contracts, so they're probably negotiating for a smaller contract. Or negotiating for a different contract. Who knows? It's just funny looking at this and being like, the two players that are guaranteed in this fucking team is Tuba and Raw. God save us. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do with these other players. If they can continue to lock down Decay, then I think it'll be good. People look decent at the end of the year. Yeah, but you can't... The same with Stitch in the playoffs, right? Stitch looked really good in the playoffs. You cannot let a small sample size of, like, at the very end they look solid to justify a reason to sign these players when there are going to be great options out there. I don't hate it. You want to die on the Stitch Tuba hill? If you're the Washington Justice, fucking do it. You sign Decay, you have Decay, Stitch, Tuba. It'll probably be fine. They'll probably be solid. Stitch and Tuba both look good at certain points in the thing. Janu Raw. Janu's good. Raw would be a good coach. That would be a great decision. So I would love to see them try and get a really good contenders player. Or a contenders tank and stuff like that. I think there's good options that you could pair with Janu.
Wobble wobble, motherfucker.
Arc, they need a new main support. I think they just there's other main supports out there. Arena, thank you for the gift of sub to Pre. Oh, Pre's in here. Hello. I gotta be nice. Oh, I read your message. Sorry, I didn't read the name. But they need a new main support. I love Arc. He's a great guy. He's a good Mercy. You can probably keep him on the lineup in case a Mercy meta comes. But I think they need a new main support. Someone who's just really good at Lucio. Like someone like Slime, right? Like who would fill that role. I don't know if that's an availability or like there's a better thing. But they need a new Lucio player. Is furiously taking notes. Yeah. Don't worry, I got you. Just consulting. It's like $1,000 an hour. So I expect to check them out. But don't worry. I'm glad you got it going. But yeah, get a new Lucio in my opinion, and then Worth, nice. Yeah, get Moth. See, problem solved. Just buy Moth, and then the solution is there. And then for flexible, Aim God was really good in the postseason. I was an Aim God hater, disagree person, good with words, but he was really good in the playoffs. I think he has a really weird playstyle, but he's literally an Aim God. He has the mechanics to back it up. I just think he looks... When the team looks bad, I think Aim God looks really bad. When the team looks good, I think Aim God looks really good. So it's another one of kind of like Stitch and Tuba of like, do you just commit to these players or do you want to try and make them better? It really comes down. But the linchpin of the Washington Justice, I think, comes down to if they can secure Decay, the sky's the limit, really, at that point, right? They showed that in the playoffs. Doesn't Washington want to stay full Korean? Yeah, I was just memeing about Moth. But Moth has played on a 5 Korean lineup before and made it work. Oh yeah, a new main tank. Yeah. Oh, is that the last team? Oh, we did it. Yeah! There it is, chat.